The shelter started back in 1982. So we celebrated 40 years. It was last year. But yes, so anyway, I oversee SOAR, which are individuals who cannot work, to help them. We have two staff to help them to do their disability applications. We are also an EN, which is an employment network. So I oversee that as well, which are individuals who are already receiving Social Security benefits who wants to get back into the workforce because they wants to maximize their income. And so we help them as well. So all income, earned or unearned, that's what I oversee at Columbus House. Been there for well over 14 years. Thank you.
Wow, great to have you, Dr. Reynolds. I think we might have met before, but I'm not going to go into that now. But Columbus House does some amazing work, and I knew Allison Cunningham pretty well for years, and a bunch of your staff there. So thank you for all your work. That's pretty incredible. Robin.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. I'm glad to be here. I'm the CEO of Easter Seals, Capitol Ridge in Eastern Connecticut. We serve Hartford County and all of the Norwich, New London area up into the Quiet Corner. Work primarily with people with disabilities and veterans, and one of our main focuses is employment. And as Luis said, helping veterans in our military and even our active military and their family members with employment and with that transition into civilian life. Talked a little bit about 22 deaths a day, committing suicide. Just had another really tragic right here in our own community. So, it's happening all the time, and the social connections are incredibly important, and employment is incredibly important to that. Columbus House is a fantastic partner, and so we're glad to be part of this. Glad to see the state taking an interest in our veterans and bringing those bridges to employment. Excuse me. Prior to Easter Seals, I was with the YWCA for 15 years, so also very familiar with the issues facing women, people of color, and youth. So glad to be part of this.
Great, thank you, Robin. And then we had Laura. You joined us. We were just doing some brief introductions, just where you're from and what organization. And
yes, definitely. So I have to say, this is the first breakout session I have ever joined anything in 3 years, because I'm usually in the background trying to, behind the curtain, the whole thing. So this is kind of exciting for me. So anyway, Laura Baker, I'm a workforce specialist with the Office of Workforce Strategy. My background's in education, and I had the pleasure of spending 7 years in a manufacturing facility where I got to work with all the employees. Actually, Louis, you mentioned the defense industry. I was working in the defense industry as well, where I got to work with employees who were facing a lot of issues, right, potentially. So super excited to sit in and listen in, and happy to do the work at the state. And I'm here for you. So it's because of you all, not because of me, that's for sure. So thanks for letting me join.
Great, thank you. Yeah, well, this is like a great team. I feel like just us, we could like figure out a lot of things together. You guys have such a diverse and wonderful background. So I'm just so I think my thing says Mary Ann Haley. I get called a lot of different things, but everybody mostly calls me Mimi. So if you hear people referring to Mimi, that's actually me. And just briefly, I've worked in the private sector. I taught for many years at Fairfield University, but more recently, I have worked in homelessness. I was deputy director and interim executive director at the Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness. So worked with a lot of folks across the state, developed a reentry program, did a bunch of things around homelessness, and was the lead for the agency around ending youth homelessness. So worked very closely with the Department of Housing on that. I now am executive director for the National Youth Employment Coalition. It's based in Washington, D.C. I still reside in Fairfield, Connecticut, and have been working to chair this governor's, the DEIA task force, the subcommittee on youth. So with that, I just want to also put out there in the universe that we are actually launching in my National Youth Employment Coalition a national community of practice to do a deeper dive into the building collaboration between youth workforce and homelessness providers. On the side of, youth workforce, let me back up. So when this opportunity was presented to me to run the National Youth Employment Coalition, I was really attracted to it because I had been working in youth homelessness for so long, had developed the Yetis and chaired the Yeti teams across the state, the youth engagement team initiatives, and all kinds of people were at the table, but it was very difficult to get workforce folks at the table. And so I was always frustrated by that, couldn't understand why, youth experiencing homelessness weren't priority number one. So there's a lot of things. Now I'm on the workforce side thinking like, why aren't some of the young people in our workforce systems being prioritized for housing? So it's, I think it's a both and. We see a lot of folks in working with opportunity youth and disconnected youth saying like, one of their number one challenges is housing for young people. And especially now, there's been a definite uptick nationally. And as we saw, certainly a big challenge in Connecticut. And at the same time, these are some of our most vulnerable youth experiencing homelessness, and they, I believe, should be prioritized within our workforce systems as well. So, that's a little of my background. So I'm really interested in figuring this out on the national level, and certainly in my home state here. We're doing a community of practices with communities across the country that we're just launching next month, around figuring out what are some of the best practices for assisting young people experiencing homelessness with career pathways, and trying to figure out how to prioritize them for the wheel with slats, whether through waivers or other mechanisms. But in the state of Connecticut, just we have an estimated 40,000 or more disconnected youth who are out of work and out of school. And we do not have a well-developed, comprehensive system for addressing that. We do not know often who those disconnected youth are. We do not have a systematic way across the state to connect with those young people. They're at high risk for a number of different things. Mental health, we're in a youth mental health crisis. We have the statistics on that. So just, looking for good ideas on both the workforce side and the homelessness side. And yeah, I'm going to stop there. That was a lot, but there's a lot of opportunity right now. And I am really hoping that we're going to be able to dig in and have Connecticut be a national leader in figuring this out. So we're doing both veterans and youth. We've gotten to introductions, and I think some of the challenges were, I don't know if we're going to have a ton of time. It looks like, I'm not sure like how much time we have remaining. I think we're, but why don't we?
Not much, about 5 minutes. I'm going to call in about 5
yeah.
minutes.
This, I think my little clock here is for the overall committee. So why don't we start with, I know they kind of put veterans and youth together, but I think that there's such commonality across all of the subgroups here for what the challenges are, beginning, certainly with housing and the lack thereof and how expensive it is. So maybe, Luis, I know you have, maybe some, or really anybody, opening this to anybody, and certainly Dr. Reynolds, you as well. What are you seeing in terms of, the biggest challenges in the state for the populations that you're working with?
Probably affordable housing. I mean, because, it's not affordable for most individuals in the state, especially in Fairfield County where I am. Number one, there is not enough affordable housing. So even if you find someone that's homeless and you want to transition them out of a shelter, do they really have a place to go? So, I mean, I think that is one of the major problems in terms of, what I am seeing, for vets and youth is a whole nother ball game because
Yeah, I think that's true. And I like what you said about the mental health crisis, and I can only speak for vets. But we discussed intersectionality a little bit before, and many of the subgroups are interconnected. So if you have a veteran, there's a good chance that maybe that he or she is disabled, right? Or that they are part of the BIPOC community. So at the veteran space, and typically I think generally for homeless, you're struggling with some sort of disability. You can't maybe hold a job. So I think that, if you're looking to solve, the end state would be, if one of the major issues is affordability, how are we affording this? Jobs. And so I always come back to employment because I think that that's like the engine that makes all things possible. So if for veterans, they are having trouble adjusting or they're dealing with some sort of disability, PTSD, and they can't acclimate or access a job, then they're going to end up homeless. I will say though that the VA in the past decade has done a tremendous job, and I am a patient of the Veterans Administration, and they're doing a really wonderful job. So I think the statistics are like 3,000 homeless people in Connecticut, a little bit less than that, and 10% of them are vets. But I think that the VA hospital is doing a pretty good job of helping support. So just throwing some positivity into the dilemma.
Yeah, I agree. I think on the veteran side, when it comes to homelessness, the biggest challenge is the wraparound services, right? And the right sizing. So if it's a single person, it's a lot easier to find some housing for a veteran than it is if there's a family. And the size and affordability of the family housing gets a little bit much.
And
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh no, I'm just going to say, as far as the employment piece, the success that we've had is, I mean, we've always taken, the person-centered approach, right? And so when you use that approach, we're listening to the individual, so it's not a job is a job approach, it's trying to find out what it is that person, what is it they want to do and why is it so appealing to them, and try to help them that way. Because what I've learned over the years is that before they want to know how much I know, they want to know how much I care. And once they realize how much I care, then they're open to those things. So so even bringing in anyone that is across the sectors in that homelessness category, it's trust, and so it's that more so with the veterans, but even more so with the youth. And so I normally don't share this, but outside of Columbia House, I'm also a bishop of my own ministry, it's non-denomination. And so I deal with a lot of the youth out in the community. And when I'm talking with them, and it just be sometimes me and the youth or young adults in the room, trying to meet them where they are and see what's going on, because mental health is running rampant amongst that population. And and so, but there's this lack of trust outside of their own community, and so this is what they're looking for. This is what they're searching, out in the community. And so they come together as their own community because of the lack of trust or being looked down upon, if you will, and so they it's important that we instill hope in them and encourage them, you know. And some, we might even have to do some hand holding along the way, the same way we would do when a child first ride a bike. You put the training wheels on, and the training wheels are on the ground, and as they go, the wheels go up, and before you know it, they're riding. Same thing with some of the individuals that we serve. We need to do some hand holding and letting go of one finger at a time until before you know it, they're often, you know, doing things on their own. But it's about encouragement and empowerment.
I think you tapped into something powerful. It's like what is one similarity I see between youth and veterans, and I think that I always go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I think that belongingness, youth struggling with homelessness, probably coming from family problems, maybe physically abused, they've left the house, so they're searching for, I think, belongingness. Vets, I'm speaking for myself, and probably a ton of vets, you leave a very, very, very tight organization, and now you're struggling with belongingness. So I think maybe something easy, low-hanging fruit is to establish, back to your comments about community, establish a community to find that sense of belongingness, and then you build from there.
Wow, we didn't have much time, but that was very powerful. I think we're getting kicked out in 30 seconds. So if anybody has anything to add, Ellie, I'm going to go on a limb and say that you're the youngest person here. So anything around youth that you want to add?
Yeah, and actually, I in my 30 seconds is not a lot of time, but in my former roles, I was a clinical social worker in the pediatric clinic at Bridgeport Hospital, and I also was a case manager in permanent supportive housing. So working with both of those populations, I really do think like we do need to build a sense of community, but also
Hey, everyone. I know you probably all got cut short mid-sentence. I think every group probably had at least one person that got cut short mid-sentence. We're so sorry. We know that this happens a lot. We thank you all for participating today. Unfortunately, although you do see Anthony here, he did have to run out very quickly. So I personally, from the OWS, we want to thank you all for participating today. We can certainly leave more time for breakout sessions in the future. I think that's where there's a lot of valuable conversation that gets to take place, and everyone gets to maybe meet somebody new on that line, which is great. And networking is what it's all about. So if it's all right with you, Jay, I'm going to pass it back to you for closing remarks, and then we'll give everyone a happy Thursday, happy rest of your Thursday. So, but Jay,
real quick, Laura.
Yes.
Is this possible? Because my breakout session was recorded. I don't know if anybody else's was, but I got a lot of good information in that, and I wanted to review that and take some notes back to my committee.
Yes. So technical things for just a quick second, then on a housekeeping front. So what we will do is we will take and piece together everybody's breakout recordings, and then they will be going up on YouTube, typically not on a searchable link, but usually if you have the link. So what we'll do is we'll aggregate everybody's recordings, and we will send you all back out a link of today's meeting, as well as all of the meeting materials. And then if you have any other questions, of course, you know how to reach out to Anthony or myself, and we can get you something as well. So yes, thank you, Earl, for asking that. That's a very good housekeeping question. Thank you.
Well, the question from Earl and the response from Laura was more important than anything that I could say, other than thank you all again for your time, your dedication, and commitment to this. And as we close out, again, acknowledging the hard work of the staff, and the team, we appreciate everything that you continue to do. So until next time, everyone, stay well. And as Laura said, wish you a happy Thursday for the rest of your weekend going into the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.